Okay, so let's summarize what we know about the divine soul. And the one word that really sums it up with the divine soul is continuity.
Yes?
Continuity. I think that's a good word for it. Continuity. The way it comes into being, it can trace itself. So she can trace herself all the way back to her origin. Continuity, like the analogy we gave of a body comes from a cell, from a single cell. And as miraculous as that is, but you can trace it back because in every cell of your body is that same DNA. And you can see it's all from the same body. They're all working together as though they are one cell. So there's that continuity there. In general, you could say that that is the mark of the Jewish people in general, is continuity. So other peoples may say, well, we're the same people as were around in this land thousands of years ago, but you can't present a kind of continuity. So there's this trademark of the Jewish people. They could go through all sorts of changes, all sorts of situations, but could always trace things back. Where did this come from? Came from that, came out of this. There's that continuity. So the same thing with a Jew as an individual in the Jewish soul. There's this continuity. Otherwise, this thing you can describe as continuity is if you have a ray of light. You're sitting in the sun, and you feel the sun's warmth on you. And you feel that this warmth is coming from somewhere. It's connected something. We say, the sun is shining, even though the sun's way up over there. We say the sun is shining down here. No, it's just the sun's light, but we say the sun is here because there's a light provides a continuity. Or the other example we gave about Torah. Torah has a continuity. It's like water flows down. It's one flow. So that's important because we're going to get to the other side of the person, which is this animalistic soul, which is the opposite. It's all about discontinuity, being fractured, fragmented, feeling self-distinct. So you have one side of you that's continuity, connectedness, harmony. You have the other side that's all about detachment, fragmentation, discord. Okay? And those are the two parts of the person that are in conflict, and that explains why life is so confusing. It partially explains. Okay, so let's get started on page 119, chapter 6. It says like this: now for everything God made, he made an opposite just like it. Isn't that interesting? Everything in the world has an opposite just like it. And here we're talking about forces of good and non-good. So if it weren't that way, then one would destroy the other. But because they're matched up so well, whatever you got, it's got. So whatever you try, it's got a strategy for it. Whatever it tries, you've got a strategy for it. So therefore, it just goes on and on. They do that in all the boxing and wrestling and those things. They match you up with somebody who's the same weight as you, same height as you, same level as you. You're not going to win because you're stronger or heavier or taller. It's the other guy. I remember a wrestler telling me that he was a professional wrestler. He told me when he's down there holding on to this guy and he sees a toe, he doesn't know, is that my toe or his toe? So that's so we're talking here the divine soul and the animalistic soul. They're two opposites that are just like each other, but opposite. Like each other, but opposite. Isn't that interesting? And not like mirror image type of opposite. We'll see the way it's opposite. So this is how it goes with the two souls within you. Just like the divine soul consists of 10 modalities corresponding to the 10 holy sefirot, and invests herself within 3 clothes that are holy, right? The three clothes, that's your articulate thought, your speech, and your activities. Those are the three clothes of the soul. Okay. So too with the soul of the Sitra Achra from Klippas Nega, the soul that interfaces with your body through your blood. She consists of 10 modalities of her own that are Tameh, corresponding to the 10 crowns of Tuma. Now that's a big mouthful over here, so let's unpack it. So first of all, we call this, we don't call it the animalistic soul. That doesn't come till, I think, the next chapter. Here we just call it the soul of Sitra Achra. So I've got a diagram down here of the three things that we call this other soul. One, we call it the vital soul, Nefesh Achienis, like from Chai, to be alive. And we call it that soul because that's what makes you a functioning living being. That's all. Its job is just to keep you alive. The divine soul isn't keeping you alive. It's this Nefesh Achienis, it's keeping you alive. Divine soul it comes afterwards. God takes this mud, makes it into a human being, and that human being is alive, and then breathes into that human being a divine soul. Comes afterwards. So the divine soul it comes as a supplement, really. But what's essentially there to begin with is this soul that's just making you a functioning living being. And then the other name is that it's called the Nefesh of Sitra Achra and Klippa. That's what we call it right here. So what does it mean? What does it mean? It's the soul of the other side and of Klippa. It basically means you assert yourself. I am here. I am a distinct entity of all of my own. And that's what obstructs divine presence. I'm here. So if I say, yeah, but God is making you alive. No, it's me. I'm making myself alive. I just ate food. That's how I stay alive. No, there's energy that's coming through that food. No, it's me. I am doing this. That's this soul of Sitrach and Klippa. I'm doing it. And then the other name is, we call it this animalistic soul. Because a human being is an animal, right? It's a very lofty, special type of animal. Some way a very destructive animal. Probably mostly destructive, but it's kind of animal, okay? So what's with an animal? It has emotions, it has desires, it wants, it's its own agent, and it goes about getting what it wants. To get what it wants, because to survive and to make itself bigger and to make more of itself. Right? That's what an animal is. So that's what human beings generally do. Just we're like really good at it. That's what it is. Okay, so that's the soul of Sitrach Klippa. Now it interfaces with your body through your blood. What does that mean? So it's not, wait a minute, there's a soul in your blood. Why just in your blood? So this energy has to somehow work a body. How does it work a body? Principally through the medium of blood. So the blood becomes a medium for it, whereby it can transfer energy around the body. So what does the blood do? It moves oxygen around. It's a free radical in your body, and it moves around the glucose to things that are needed for your muscles to flex and for things to be built. Those things. The nervous system does very different. Nervous system with electricity. Firing electricity around the body. So it's interesting that you see, says animalistic soul is principally, that's the Torah says, nefesh is in the blood. So the nervous system maybe is more for the divine soul, but then most living creatures have a nervous system. But anyways, here it says the blood. So most of the time we call it this animalistic soul. Now it says she also has 10 modalities of her own that are tame. They're not holy, spiritual. They're not holy. They're tame. Tame. After a great debate, we decided we are not going to translate. Usually gets translated as impurity. I don't know what the two have to do with it. So a pig is impure. Why? Well, what's impure about it? I don't get it. So actually, we have a definition over here. I think, yeah, tuma, or the adjective tame, the very first place, the T words. So I put a biblical term often translated as ritual impurity. Strange term. Malach, you know where it comes from? It comes from 19th century Germany. That's where it comes from. When they translated these things into German. And at that time, purity was really special. Like that was the in thing, purity, hygiene, that type of thing. So they're like, that's what they got the family purity and things like that. But it doesn't work anyways. Allah describes it the properties of a non-physical, sentient energy field. The halachas are just like amazing. Like, where does the tumah go? There's a dead body in this house, right? So inside the house is tameh. Now let's say you're standing at the doorway. You're standing at the doorway. Well, that tameh energy, if you're under the lintel of the doorway, that you could become tameh from that energy, tameh energy in the house. But what about if you're standing by the window? No. But what about if the people in the house decided they're going to take the dead body out of the house through the window? Then if you're standing by the window, you're tameh. So that's why it's like a sentient energy. It's like it knows what they're thinking, and therefore, okay, the energy is moving that way now. But in many things, it works that way. Okay? There's some type of. So in the Zohar, Tuma, it's more than that. So that's in Halacha. The Zohar, Tuma is a force that occupies any void of holiness. And whether it was holiness somewhere and it leaves, there's an opportunity for lots of Tuma. That's why. If you're leaving your home and you know another Jewish person is moving in, you do not take down the mezuzahs. Because where there was a mezuzah there and you take it down, creates a void where there's a tumah will come in. But any place where even to begin with there's a void of holiness, tumah is there. So tumah is strongly related to klippa and sitrach. Where there's klippa, tumah results, because klippa is creating a void. That's a shell. It's not allowing the kedusha holiness to come in. So therefore, there's tumah. So that's what tumah is. So her 10 modalities are tameh because they're void of holiness, and they correspond to the 10 crowns of tumah. What are crowns? They're not sphirot. They're not talking about spheres anymore. We're talking about crowns. What's the difference between spheres and crowns? So crowns is a whole different way for energy to come down and to get down from one place to another. Spheres, which says, it's like it comes from this sphere to that sphere to the next sphere. So spheres are basically a way for divine energy to come into things. So they absorb the energy and pass it on to the next place. So that place can absorb the energy. Pass on to the next place, they can absorb the energy. Crowns are a different way in Kabbalah, where you give over the energy remotely. And you give it remotely, it's never absorbed. So it's, I guess, like a remote control type of thing. I'm trying to think of situations where you're receiving something and you don't know that you're getting anything. Like you go for an MRI scan. Every cell in your body is vibrating. You don't feel a thing. Not affecting you anyway. Right? It is affecting you. It's vibrating every single molecule. But you feel I'm just lying inside this machine. That's what you feel. No, what affects you remotely is the weather. Like you feel grumpy one day, and you don't know why you feel grumpy. You think maybe somebody just tipped you off, or you didn't eat properly. You go about finding more carbs to eat. Really, it's the weather. The sudden low pressure, winds, things like that affect our moods, and we don't realize. We think it's me. We don't feel something is affecting me. The social situation area. We ask people, what are your opinions? What are your beliefs? What are your attitudes? And they just say all the beliefs and have the people that they're amongst. They're social milieu. and you take them and put them somewhere else amongst other people. Within a month, all the beliefs and views have changed. But they believe these are my views and my beliefs that I've come to, and I think it's not. You're just affected by the people around you. So there are many things that affect you like this remotely. They don't come inside you, that you feel them, you absorb them, just affecting you from the outside. So that really explains the difference between these two souls, this idea of crowns. The divine soul feels, I'm getting this energy from somewhere, and I feel it, and I feel that it's divine, and I feel that I'm connected. And this animalistic soul feels, I'm just alive. Why? Because I am. That's all. Why? Because it's getting its energy remotely, and it doesn't come in an inner way. So therefore, I just is. That's in Tom's cabin. And I ever read Tom's cabin. And the runaway slaves in the American South all gathered in this house together, and they're telling their life stories. And this one says, well, I was born to so and so and so and so, and then I got sold to such and such a master, and he sold me such and such. The other one says, well, I was born to so and so and so and so. And there's this little girl who says, I don't know what you mean you was born. I wasn't. Well, where did you come from? I just is. I just is. So in a way, that's how we all feel. You don't really feel that you were born. You can't really imagine a time when you were not. The little girl, what's her name? In Argentina, there was a comics series, Malta or something like that. She asks her mother, Mommy, before it was born, was there TV? And Martha says, yes, there was. Uh-huh. And were there birthday cakes? Yeah. And there were birthdays? Yeah. What a waste. So, but that's the human experience. We don't feel that there was a time I was not, and then I was born, and now I am here. I just is. That's all. So we feel very disconnected to our origin. But we've got something inside us that feels otherwise. We're not totally connected. So you can see the struggle. Okay, so now we get to on page 120, what the 10 modalities are. They are, first of all, 7 bad emotions. Some people say, I should say negative or evil. No, bad. That's it. They emerge from the 4 bad elements mentioned earlier. Right? We said that there's earth, water, wind, and fire, and there can be good or they can be bad. These are the bad ones. Why are they bad? Because they just is. That's all. And the intellect that gives birth to them, which is divided into 3, Chochmah, Bina, and Das, and these 3 form the wellspring of the emotions. In what way are they a wellspring? In the sense that they act as a sort of funnel for this soul's emotions. As a result, our emotions emerge as big or as small as our mental scope permits. For instance, although everyone seeks whatever is pleasurable to them, small children desire and cherish small, inconsequential things. That's because their minds are too small and limited to comprehend the value of things more precious. As well, they lose their temper or get upset over any minor thing. Same thing goes for the things they boast about and all the rest of their emotions. So small minds desire small things. And if you're a bigger mind, you want bigger things. So if you're a bigger mind, you don't just want candies, you want steaks. And if you're a bigger mind, you don't just want steaks, you want to be CEO of a big corporation. And if you're bigger, you say, I want to have an empire, or I want to start my own religion, or I want to take over the world, or I want to be the greatest, most spiritual, amazing guru in the world. Whatever it is, that's what you desire. And as big as you can imagine, that's what you're going to desire. That's how it works. So take this apart, the best way to take it apart is to compare how we describe these emotions and this intellect with the divine soul in chapter 3, and how we're describing it with this animalistic soul here. And what do you know? There's a chart right there on the page that puts them next to each other so we don't have to flip back pages. Not amazing. So comparative anatomy of two souls. So when it got to the divine soul, it said, this is the order of things. The 10 faculties of the soul are divided into two categories, intelligence and emotions. Which here we said first 7 bad emotions, and then we said intellect. Right? For the divine soul, we put intelligence before emotions. Right? Then it goes on, the emotions are love of God, on purpose toward Him, drive to glorify and praise Him, as well as others along the same lines. Now here we say that the 7 bad emotions emerge from 4 bad elements. So where do these emotions come from? With the animalistic soul or the primal human soul, they come out of elements. In other words, it's just instinctual emotions. Right? They're not coming out of your intelligence. They just is. They just are. They're instinctual. They're there. And then there's the intellect that gives birth to them. In other words, they're emerging from just instinct, but they need something to give birth to them. Like they're there already, they're there always in potential, but something has to let them out, release them. So that's the funnel for them. So it gives birth to this. So that's the intellect. So those are the wellspring. So I'll explain that next. We take a look at the dynamic between the two of them. When we talk about the divine soul, now the reason Chacham, Bin, and Das are called the mothers and the wellspring of the emotion is because emotions really are their children. Whereas over here, with this soul, we're saying, in what way are they a wellspring? Doesn't mention mothers anymore. In the sense that they act as a sort of funnel for the soul's emotions. As a result, our emotions emerges because all the intellect is doing is you need to desire. What will you desire? Well, whatever I'm thinking about, that's what you desire. You need to be afraid of something. What are you going to be? Whatever I'm thinking, I have to be afraid. You have all these things to begin with, and the intellect is just allowing it to come out in a certain way. So what's really running the person? Is it the person's emotions or their intelligence? Really, it's principally emotions. I mean, seriously looking at our lives, why do we do the things we do? Because I desire this. And whatever I desire, my mind will find some way to justify it, that's what I need to do. And I'll do it this way, I'll do it that way. And it has to come out. My intellect will make sure it comes out that way. Sometimes we can be intellectually honest about things, like mathematics or maybe science to some degree. But if it affects us in any way, it's very, very hard for us to remain objective. So we're principally emotional beings. That's the animalistic soul. Yeah. So a lot more. So you see, in how they're two opposites, it's not. You can't really say that. Well, in the divine soul, intellect runs the emotions, and in the animal soul, the emotions run the divine soul, run the intellect. It's not really exactly upside down, mirror image in that way. It's just that it's like a muddied reflection. What's happening here? I think you can see from the diagram on the next page, 123, which, even though it wasn't done right, I think we corrected this one afterwards, but I don't have that print here. The divine soul is getting light, and this primal human soul is getting light, coming down from above. But the difference being the divine soul, that light is coming inside and illuminating things. And the primal human soul is staying on the outside. So you feel it's all coming from just within you. So when it's coming down from above, it comes through your mind and down into your heart. But when it's coming from within you, it's coming from your body and up into your mind, mostly. But not really, because there's still this struggle going on with the mind and the heart in a struggle with one another, but mostly not. So emotions, in other words, you get down to it, what's the difference between intellect and emotion? In many ways, they seem to be the same thing. Both of them are adaptations, how we adapt to our environment. What am I going to do next? Intellect can tell you, emotions can tell you. They're processing the things that are around you. Both of them process whatever it is you perceived of your environment. The principal difference is that emotions are all about how do I feel? How do I react? And intellect is mostly about what is this thing that I'm saying? What is this? I saw something, what is it? As soon as I start feeling, how am I going to react to it? That's emotion. So if you're listening to a person and you're using your mind, you're thinking, what is the person saying? How is this person feeling? What's going on over here? If you're listening with your emotions, you're thinking, what do I have to say? What am I going to do? What's my reaction? Is this person for me or against me? The hard part is we have to use both at the same time. But that's the principal thing. So the human mind, it's got far more neurons than the heart, the kishkas. It's got a big advantage, and it can control them. But even when the mind is controlling them, it's still being influenced by them. You have these nerves that go between the heart and mind. That's why when there's a heart transplant, they have to put a pacer, because the brain is constantly telling the heart to slow down. So if you just, that's the heart transplant, without putting a pacer, the heart's going to go too fast. The brain tells it to slow down, slow down. So I saw a woman at the University of London, College of London. So she realized we can look and see these signals coming from the heart in the brain. Why? The pulse, the heart's pulse in the brain. Why? Because all the other pulses we see in the brain are extremely regular, but the pulse in the heart is constantly changing. It's no two heartbeats the same. So let's check it out. So you see, first of all, the first observation is there's more information coming from the heart to the brain than there is from the brain to the heart. That's amazing. More than the brain is telling the heart what to do, the heart is telling the brain what to do. And why would the heart have to tell the brain what to do with not enough oxygen coming in? What is it? But the other thing was, she saw that there are people in which this pulse in the brain is very strong, and other people that's not so strong. It's different amongst different people. And then she found also that there are people who are very aware of their heartbeat. There are people who you ask them, are you aware? Do you feel your heartbeat? Of course, all the time. And most people know. And some people, if they stop, they'll feel it, and other people won't feel it. And what do you know? It's the same. It's the people you can measure in their brain. This heartbeat happening is louder. They're the ones who feel their heartbeat. So then she did an amazing thing. She looked at the brokers. What do you call them? Guys on the floor at the stock market. Yeah, brokers. Okay. And she did a study on them, asking them about their heartbeats, if they hear their heartbeat or something. And she found that many of them are very aware of their heartbeat. Those are the ones who are the most successful and last the longest. Because she says most of these people quit after 30. They can't take the pressure. But these guys who feel their heartbeat, they're more successful and they last longer. So it's just put to rest the whole notion that you only think with your brain. You're thinking with your heart, with your kishkas, with all of you. You're using all that to think. And it's telling you these things. So, but it also comes out that your mind, you think I'm just thinking. No, no, no. The rest of your body is telling you what to think. So you might be in a situation where somebody's got you very upset, and now your brain has sent all the hormones into the body, and the heart is pumping, and the kisses are churning, and they in return tell the brain what it's supposed to be thinking right now, and that's going to be influence your brain. So you're going to think that I published a paper, and it looked really good, and now somebody challenged my thesis. Of course, I should look at it objectively and think maybe I was wrong and they were right. But my stomach is already churning and my heart is already beating, and that's not going to let my mind think straight anymore. So it's very effective, in other words. The two work back and forth. Okay, so it doesn't mean you don't have self-control. You can have that self-control. But as soon as it has anything to do with you, with the animalistic soul is just really disadvantaged in this manner. Okay, so now we get to the clothing. With the divine soul, after you had its intellect and its emotions, you had its clothing, its thought, speech, and action. And its thought, speech, and action was all thoughts of Torah, words of Torah, doing mitzvahs, that's it. Anything that doesn't have to do with any of that is not clothing for the divine soul, right? Divine soul does not get a joke because it's not Torah. I don't get it. You know? It's not interested in eating a steak. Eating a steak, that's Torah. No, that's not a mitzvah. Oh, if it's a mitzvah, eating matzah, okay, eat matzah. Matzah is a mitzvah. That I can. And even then, it has to get the animal involved. Could you please move your teeth and eat the matzah? You know. But otherwise, okay, it just has in other words, divine soul has a very limited wardrobe. Well-defined, limited wardrobe. That's it. These are my clothes. I don't wear any other clothes. That's it. So what are the clothing of this other soul, this primal human soul? So let's say you engage these 10 modalities of emotions and attitudes, granting them expression, right? Which is your emotions, whether your desires for whatever pleasure, or running away from pain, whatever. These emotions, these attitudes that you have, granting them respect by actually thinking, speaking, or doing something related to them. When you do so, the thought process going on in your brain, the verbalizing of your mouth, or the activity you're doing with your hands and limbs can be called the tainted clothes of these 10 tame modalities. That's its clothing. Its clothing is whatever those modalities desire. It can wear whatever it wants. Compared to the divine soul, these aren't really clothes. Because just whatever I want to do, that's it. Whatever I want to say. After all, as you perform, why are they called clothing? After all, as you perform that act, speak those words, or process those thoughts, those 10 modalities are actually investing themselves within these activities. Now, this is really key. When you're doing something, those modalities of the animal soul are invested in that thing. So you're putting life into them. It means, let's say you're speaking, say you're talking about somebody, and you're saying something about this person. You're saying it because you feel certain emotions. And those emotions are in those words. There's no words without emotions to them. Nobody would listen to them. So they have emotion inside them. That emotion is you. It's you investing yourself into those words. So it's when somebody's hearing those words, what are they receiving? They're receiving some life from you that's coming into those words and going off. When that person repeats your words and tells, you know what so-and-so said about so-and-so? Okay, he's putting his emotions into it, but he's also transporting you and your emotions onto this next person. So as those words travel around, you are going there with them. Or let's say you did something and that thing has consequences. So you are invested in there. Means you're going there with it. And it really, it's not just the animal soul, because the divine soul is invested within the animalistic soul. So all of you is going there with all these things. And in chapter 7, we'll discuss how do you get yourself out of there? You've now been spread all over the world. And your actions are in your words that have all these consequences. And you're there in all those places, and you're stuck in there because it's your life is you, stuck in all these places. How are you going to extract yourself from there? Get that? But that's why it's so key that these Tanya modalities are actively investing themselves within these activities, because it stays there until you pull it out of there. Okay, so the domain of the other side. Okay, what are these activities that provide tainted clothing for this soul? They're all activities. This is a big bomb. All activities done under the sun, all of them being hot air and a breaking of the spirit. So that's the words from Ecclesiastes. Everything done under the sun, and so everything that's done under the sun, and it's all hot air and a breaking of the spirit. What does it mean, a breaking of the spirit? So the Zohar explains breaking of the spirit means that it actually breaks the spirit. It causes damage. Basically, what it's saying over there in the Zohar doesn't say much, but it's interpreted as meaning that spirituality is coming down, and this breaks the flow of it. So these activities and words and thoughts of this animalistic soul are breaking that flow of divine energy. So all those activities, and the same goes for not just activities, talk, and any thoughts. Person's thinking of these things. He's thinking thoughts that are nothing more than an expression of his animalistic soul. Right? That's how most thoughts happen. So most thoughts are emotions. Most thoughts are. It's like you're boiling a stew on the stove, and there's these bubbles coming up and popping. Right? That's how most thoughts are. There's something boiling inside you, and it pops up in your brain as thoughts, and those thoughts are generally non sequiturs. This thought, that thought, that's going all over the place. It's just emotions inside you bubbling up. It's whereas if you were really thinking, there would be a sequence: this thought to that thought, and then you go back and review this thought. But that's not usually what's happening. It's usually has nothing to do with intelligence; it has just to do with emotions bubbling up inside you. So those emotions are coming up as in conscious thoughts. So those, and then what happens next? You blurt them all out, and you listen to most conversations that happen. There's no if so then happening in these conversations. It's just people saying whatever bubbles up. That's it. So all these things, any talk and any thoughts that are unrelated to God, fulfilling His will. So of course you could also have thinking about your next thesis or the test you have to do and so on. Those are intelligent thoughts. But even those talk and thought is still related to the animal soul. Because anything that's unrelated to God fulfilling His will, doing what He wants from you, means it's coming from this animalistic soul, which could be a very intelligent animalistic soul.
So these bad emotions and actions provide tainted clothing,
right?
For those the 10 modalities, for those negative.
So the 10 modalities are just potential. So now they've been given expression. Right? So the expression is going to be a little lower level than them themselves. That's why it's always better not to say anything if you don't have to. So with the divine soul, it says clothing takes it higher. Right? It reaches to places that totally beyond it. With this soul, we say its clothing takes it lower. because now you're giving expression to these things inside you.
So we do need to know how to transfer between us. We're gonna make us wait till August.
So you gotta. Okay, but this is the real bomb over here. That's the implication of the term sitra achra. Right? We always use the sitra achra, like meaning evil and so on. So usually, like sitra achra gets talked about like demons or something like that. It says sitra achra just means the other side. Sitra is side, achra is other. The other side. Now, he says it is simply that which is not side of holiness. Now, this is a big bomb because you're saying if it's not holy, it's sitra achra. And there's no middle ground. There's no neutral zone, nothing in between. I remember when I was in yeshiva and a gentleman came, he was 50s, 60s. At that point in life, he decided he wanted to go to yeshiva and he came to yeshiva. And it was almost 20-year-olds, in yeshiva. And he was enjoying himself. And then he heard this. He shook his head and says, I'm getting out of this place. He left. He says, no neutral ground. There's nothing like that. It's either holy or it's sitra. And he left. Got up, packed his bags and left. That was the end of it. That he couldn't. People just generally say, okay, there's stuff that I'm not allowed to do. Tell me what I can't do. Okay, I can't do that. The stuff I have to do. Okay. Now the rest of my life, just leave me alone. Let me do what I want to enjoy. Okay, that's. I said, no, there's no such thing. But why is there no such thing? Why can't I have my own life? I've got a nice house and 2 cars, a wife and children, and I also have God. Okay, so I have time for my wife and children and my house, and I have time for God. What? It's not forbidden, What's the problem? So to address this issue, I wrote a huge long essay of 6 misconceptions, but we couldn't fit that in here, so I've only put 3 misconceptions here. And I recommend you read it. But basically, the idea comes down to this: is that there's only one thing in the whole world, and that is we call it elokus, or divine energy. That's all there is. Everything is receiving the same energy. The only difference is some things resonate with it, and some things obstruct it. And there's nothing in between. Like they used to say in my day, you're either on the bus or not on the bus. Or you could be in front of the bus as it's coming towards you. But it's either you're resonating with this energy and you're allowing it, you're embracing it, allowing it to reside there within it. Or you're in its way. Sitrach is whatever in its way. So you're saying, well, I'm just doing this because, you mean it's meaningless? It has nothing to do with its creator. It doesn't have any purpose. That's a denial. It's a denial of the truth. There's nothing else here but him. So it's an idea that just shifts everything, every aspect of life once you get that. So we see there's a world of all sorts of stuff all around us, and God made it a long time ago, and there's stuff that's good and enjoyable, and there's stuff that's really bad to stay away from. There's stuff that he wants me to do something with. Stuff that's a total misconception of what's going on over here. It's all divine energy. That's all that's there, and you're either in its way or embracing it, one or the other. And everything from this point is based on that idea, which is why I wrote this whole long thing. There's no neutral bubble. So just go to the end of that on page 126. The 3 delusions and the 3 realities. So the first delusion is the world is made of static things. And the reality is there's no things. It's all energy. It's all divine energy. And energy is, what's energy? What I mean by energy? Energy is God doing things. That's all it is. Energy just means work. Something's doing work. Okay. And so that's what the world really is. And then number two, the delusion is the world is something separate from God. It's fundamentally secular. Secular is another translation for Sitra Achra. So the reality is all God's energy. He's the truth within everything. Nothing can exist without him being there. That's what. So the concept of something secular is a lie, a delusion. And then the third delusion: there are things in this world that are hostile to God, otherworldly, holy things, and neutral ground in between. But the truth is, there's no neutral ground. There's only that which tells the truth, and that's what hides the truth. And you can go online and read the 6 misconceptions, but truthfully, the 3 misconceptions were written after the 6 misconceptions, so they might be more accurate. But that's where it goes from that point on. This is a story over here, but I'll just tell the story. So there's 2 brothers in Russia, and one became a chassid, and the other one became a successful businessman. The chassid, he's just learning and davening and just to eke out a living, but then now he has to marry off his children. He doesn't have the money to marry off his children, so time to go to the wealthy brother. So his wealthy brother invites him, come visit me in the big city. Comes there, and the first thing his brother wants to show off my house. Because this is the foyer where I got nice couches here. People come and wait for me to bring them into my office. Here's my office over here. And here's the room where I sit and learn, the Talmud, the library. And this is the room where we eat. And here's the other room where we sleep. And this is another room where the children sleep. And this is where the maid sleeps. And there's another room for entertaining people. So finally, the brother says, so what do you think of my home? I couldn't handle such a thing. I really couldn't handle such a thing. I can't have one place for learning, one place for eating, one place for sleeping. To me, all of life is just one thing. I can't put all of my life in different rooms. So, which sums it up. That's what it's all about. Okay, so God willing, we get to August sometime, maybe the beginning of August, whenever the great Ari Solis decrees. That's when you get back again, and you can hold on to these and follow online as well. Yeah, this is a big one. Yeah, 26 pages or something. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
For sure.
Close this. It's down here, so close. I know I gotta close it somehow.
That's good.
Thank you. There it is. Bye bye. And
Rain stopped right